All right, thank you so much, Kevin. So yes, we're doing VOC. Are you listening, right? So for those of you who weren't in here in the last session, my name is Robin Fernandez, and I am the Director of Customer Success for Totango, and I've been with the company almost 5 years now. And some of my customers are NTT, I work with SAP as well, and then of course, Autodesk, who just went live last week, so they're in a very exciting time right now. I changed up my fun fact for the new people in the room. I'm a huge sports fan, so life is right. I have football on Sunday and the Raiders won on Monday night, so I'm a happy girl. It's the Warrior season we're not too sure about. Laura?
Yep, and I'm Laura Talbot, so I'm a program manager for our Voice of the Customer program at Autodesk in our construction business line, which we're calling Autodesk Construction Solutions. I've been with the company for about 3 years, and I guess it's kind of a fun fact about me. I did come from the construction industry, and I used to work at a general contractor in New York City, so it's fun to come back.
And she just got back from Portugal.
And I did just
anybody
get back
needs
from Portugal.
tips.
It's really good.
One of the countries I have not been to yet. Oops, hitting the wrong button. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the what's, whys, and hows of a VOC program. And then Autodesk is going to talk about what they're doing and what their approach is. And then I'm going to talk about how do you operationalize this into Tango, and then do some Q&A with you. So Voice of Customer program is a formalized way to capture customer feedback and understand their experiences with your company, the team, and the product. And a good VOC program will always give you the insights needed to build a true customer-centered company. And the outcome will lead to more engaged employees, right? When we get great feedback, the employees' morale goes up. Loyal customers renewing at higher rates who are active advocates for you and actually drive revenue growth for your company. And some common sources that you're going to see is surveys, right? We all know the surveys, right? We've got NPS and customer effort score and things like that. So it's typically where we start. Another place where we start is in product. Feedback forms, you see that a lot. Are you happy with the product? Did you experience something? Things like that. Meetings. Laura is really going to talk about their success that Autodesk has had around conducting the meetings. Social seems to be a place where I see kind of mixed, right? Don't forget about the LinkedIns and the Twitters and the Facebooks of the world. Your employees, I'm on the front line. I hear it all. And even when you go to business events, I'm still gathering feedback wherever I am. And of course, you have your support cases, emails, and things like that. Okay? So you really want to create actionable insights and collect and get feedback throughout the customer journey, not just one time and kind of forget about it. You want to understand how well you're performing in the stages of the journey and if you're meeting or exceeding your customers' expectations. And this is going to allow you to prioritize where you need to focus. You want to connect it with your revenue attainment. Are you seeing the same NPS scores matching what your revenue attainment is? Or are you getting great feedback and you're experiencing churn? We want to see what's going on there, right? And by understanding the cause of the feedback, you'll be able to enhance your company culture and make better product decisions and focus in the right places and invest correctly. Okay? But we do need to understand the root causes of bad experiences. We need to get below the ice and see what's going on below the surface, right? Is there a disconnect of what the company thinks is important versus what the customer thinks is important? Are there things that you know have been broken, but you just haven't had the time to really focus on a real improvement? Okay? And is your culture more of a selling culture? Or is it more of a customer success culture? All right, that comes across. Okay, so my fun fact, my last class was about how I travel quite a bit. So if anybody knows how to read a map, this is your girl, all right? So you want to create a roadmap, right? Where are we today? Current state assessment. Want to know what's the future look like? And then we want to go ahead and deploy and execute the program. And then deliver the results. And once we understand the results, now we can optimize. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and turn over to my colleague here from Autodesk, Laura, and she's going to talk to you about what they're doing.
Yep. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about our Voice of the Customer program today. We started this about 2 years ago to support an evolving construction product line. So it's specific to the experiences of our construction customers and our construction customer success team that's in the room today. So our mission statement has always been to make sure that we're delivering complete insight that identify barriers for adoption of Autodesk solutions and that close the loop effectively with the customer. So what exactly does this mean? I like to think about it like this. Everyone's collecting feedback from a lot of different sources. A lot of it's focused based on their role or where they got that feedback from. It's absolutely true that maybe it's a wall or a fan. It's our job to put together all of those varying sources into a holistic view of what's happening with our customers, what are they excited about, what do they need from the business to be successful. So when we established this program, we started with a pretty simple framework. We follow this framework and have for the last 2 years. It's actually been pretty resilient against a lot of change. And that starts with listening, right? We need to make sure we are listening to our customer, as this session is aptly titled. And at Autodesk, that means making sure that we're capturing all of those insights from all of the various sources, and there are a lot of them. We want to make sure that we're listening to our customers that are participating in our forums. And then largely we have an entire team of delivery customer success managers that are working across the globe closely with customers. So we really want to harness all of the information that we're gathering from those engagements and help that to really understand what our customers are telling us about what they need next. We have also started to make sure that we're taking all of that data and putting it in a centralized database. That's helping us structure a little bit to understand where it's coming from and who it's coming from. And that's going to help us do this next part, which is making sure that we're interpreting that data. So we're taking all of that data, and we're doing this every month, making sure that we are understanding if it's a global customer trend and turning that into a real business case or a description of a real customer problem that we can then report back to the rest of the business. In this case, we definitely want to make sure that we're representing our customer experience, whether it's small, whether it's large, if it's in Europe, if it's in America. We want that to be as universal as possible, and if it's not, then we're going to note it as such, just so everyone sort of understands the context of the information that we're presenting. So it manifests itself into a monthly share out. So every month we are meeting with our product teams and other Autodesk stakeholders internally to make sure that we're having a more technical or detailed discussion on the insights that we've generated. And then making sure that we're tracking actions or initiatives that are associated with either solving those problems or gathering that closed loop response to share with our customer-facing teams. We're also meeting quarterly with all of our executive leadership. So this is really important for making sure that as a company that wants to be a customer company, that message is coming from the top down, that everyone is aware of what our customers are saying and what's affecting the business from that standpoint. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, closing the loop. So we're generating all this insight. We are collecting feedback actively from our customers. It's very important to both close the loop both internally and externally. You've now gathered a lot of information from internal stakeholders. They want to know what happens with it. And then we also need to make sure that when our customers are telling us something, that we have a response for them. This doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get what they ask for. We all know we can't give every feature request that a customer asks for, but we can certainly acknowledge that they gave that feedback, that it's valuable to us, and that we'll have some kind of response for them. I put this in here just to make sure that we're focusing on a holistic view of what it means to be a trend or an insight. So we are a product company. So generally speaking, a lot of the insights that we get from our customers, a lot of the feedback is around that product specifically, which is why I've highlighted that there as a hotspot. But we are definitely trying to make sure that we are collecting feedback and distributing this back to the business as it affects the entire customer life cycle. So if we're consistently hearing from our customers that they have late renewals or there's an issue with using a service partner to deliver a particular service, this is something that we want to highlight back to the business and make sure that we're taking the right steps to improve that customer experience, even though it's outside of the product, but it has to do with how we're doing business with that customer and making sure that we're keeping that relationship sound. So shifting gears a little bit, so creating loyal customers through actionable insights. This was specifically a goal that we had for this year. The Voice of the Customer program is a key component of bringing that to life, but you'll see here that we have a number of initiatives or objectives that we were adding to the program this year in order to move that forward and make sure that we were pushing the envelope for us in terms of gathering more data around customer sentiment and what it means to make a customer truly loyal. I'm going to talk more specifically about our loyalty survey in a moment, but we're also focused on improving product quality with G2 and making sure that we are analyzing the transactional surveys, so CSAT scores from any of our support cases. So we launched a relationship survey program this year, so that was the loyalty survey that you saw on the previous slide. So this was a telephone conversation with our key influencers at identified strategic accounts. And in this survey, we asked those customers their likelihood to recommend BIM 360, so your classic NPS score, and we asked them for an explanation of why. But it was also really vital for us and our team as a customer success team to be able to ask the other questions about how our team was doing interacting with this customer. Were we meeting their needs? Is there anything else that we could supply them moving forward that would help their relationship with Autodesk, but also the likelihood to renew our product? The next steps here, this is something that we just started this year and we're hoping to grow more significantly. So, and as I'm going to get to in a minute, grow that within Totango as well. I think it's important to make sure that with a program like this, you actually have an endpoint. So you got to close the survey at some point. You're not going to get all of those responses. Making sure that all of that is really widely distributed and it's really transparent what our customers are saying. We do this via Slack, we have wiki pages, and then making sure that of the comments that we got from our customers, we're analyzing the key drivers for our promoters, passives, and detractors. So what this is going to do is help us identify areas of focus, and then in future, if we're doing a wider email campaign to our user base, helps them in a more scaled way identify what it is they're feeling, right? It's not, we heard in an earlier session, it's not enough just to identify how they're feeling, we need to know why. So that's gonna help us there. And then the last thing is to make sure that this person who took their time to talk to us and tell us their feedback, we need to make sure that we're developing the right action plans to make sure that we're addressing that feedback directly. So that's something that we'll do with our account teams, both sales and customer success. So what are we doing in Totango? As Robin told you, we just rolled this out. So we started small, and we're hoping to grow that more significantly. So we do have a voice of customer success flow, so that's going to allow us to categorize our touch points in a voice of the customer, so I can pull those out as it pertains to the information that we need to drive the program. We've also connected Totango to that feedback database that I was talking about. So all of our feedback gets pulled in from various sources, puts into a central location. Totango is now one of those sources that we've automated that connection. We've also established a risk block for mitigating detractors. This is something new for us, but through Voice of Customer, we often get some sort of feedback that represents a commercial risk. So this is going to allow us to identify those things and put action plans in place to help our CSMs bring that to resolution and again, close that loop with the customer so we can mitigate that relationship. We also do have a Voice of the Customer success place. This is when you're collecting feedback from people, that tends to be more of a reactive process. This is a more proactive play for trying to explain to a customer what Voice of Customer is and all of the ways in which we are taking the things that they tell us and making sure that the business hears it. The last thing is those relationship surveys that I talked about. We did do that externally because we had not rolled out to Tango yet, but hopefully in the future that represents itself within Tango, so we can track those NPS scores as associated and the feedback as associated with specific customers and accounts. So key learning. So we've been doing this for 2 years. It's evolved a lot. I would say what to do to start is definitely make sure you secure executive support. Our director of customer success is very passionate that our customer voices be heard by the rest of the business. That is what makes us a customer company. And that support is really important for making sure that your sales leadership and your product leadership is on board to, at the very least, listening, but hopefully a more collaborative partner with you when you're giving them information that is not always good. So the other thing that I would say is prioritize ongoing stakeholder buy-in and collaboration. And I want to emphasize that word, ongoing. We've had a lot of organizational changes in the last 2 years. We've managed to keep this program really stable over that time by continually working with these stakeholders, re-onboarding them if it was necessary, always looking for new champions within organizations, people that are interested and want to work with us, to make sure that when we report on things that we hear, we're making sure that somebody wants to take action on it, but also to get more insights from those groups because everyone has a different relationship with the customer. The last thing I have on here for what to do, make your data transparent and accessible. When we started this program, everyone was like, what's voice of customer? They didn't know what it was. So one of the things that we did is make this centrally available feedback database as open as possible so you can get access to it. And this enables any product manager, any level of person that's interested in looking through and sifting through customer feedback, the ability to do that, analyze it on their own time and apply it to solve what they think is the business case, right? Because we're not product professionals, we're customer success professionals. It's up to them to make sure that they decide what the solution is. But now we're giving them the data that they need to make that happen. What not to do. So I talked about this a little bit. Don't forget to close the loop internally. So all of these internal stakeholders that you've worked really, really hard to get, if you don't tell them what you did with their feedback, they will stop giving it to you. So it's really important to make sure that they understand that their contributions are valued and that you're closing the loop with them. And then don't focus on features. So I talked before about trends and how they go over the whole customer life cycle. Generally speaking, like wanting a green button in the upper right-hand corner is not a trend. That's actually a solution, right? So we want to make sure that we're focusing on or translating what our customers are telling us into what is actually affecting their business, what is the problem, because that speaks way louder across the organization when we tell people what our customers are saying. And then this last one here is really hard for me to put on a slide, but don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I'm a person that likes to optimize things all the time. You can't do that with a program like this. We established a framework. We've kept that the whole way through. We had that one thing that was consistent, and then from there, we've evolved the program to meet the needs of an evolving business. So I would say start small, see what you can control, and then grow it.
All right.
Now I will turn it over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So how do we do this into Tango and the Spark interface? So the first thing you want to do is build a success block, and that's what I did with the Autodesk team. All right, what do we need to understand what is our goal, and what do we want to measure? We need to know how many referenceable customers we are, and depending on your segmentation, you might do this by enterprise versus SMB and things like that. And what % of your clients are referenceable, okay? You can track NPS. Maybe it's number of case studies. For us, it's a lot around G2 crowd. We've got the room out there. We want you to get the free backpack, right? So you can be all sporty cool with the Tango backpack. But we want to be tracking those kinds of things and understanding, are we meeting our goals every quarter? And then we also want to take it beyond the scorecard. What are the right plays we need to run to make sure we're getting the right feedback and connecting with the customers? Like if we're doing those interviews, that's going to come through a play. But we also want to be leveraging campaigns, right? You've all received them from your CSM for sure, right? Because we use campaigns, right? asking you to fill out our NPS survey, asking you to go to G2 Crowd, leverage the campaign so you're targeting the right people and getting those messages out. Tracking key attributes. If they gave you poor feedback, track the reason why they gave you the poor feedback, right? So you can understand the different things you need to understand and the metrics that you need to understand. Okay, so just to wrap up, remember a good VOC program will lead to loyal customers, increased employee morale, and driving revenue growth for your company. Thank you so much. What questions do you have for us? Yeah, I think Kevin's got the microphone, I think.
There you go. Yeah, one great thing about NPS is that people can talk about whatever they want. They give you open feedback. You don't necessarily prime them about, is it about a product? Is it about this and that? But then how do you go about categorizing this feedback to make it actionable? Like finding patterns in the unstructured data that is NPS verbatim feedback.
Yep. Right. So we're collecting the comments and we're categorizing them. Sometimes we're doing it where when we get someone who fills out the NPS, I get a success play that says, Laura's completed an NPS survey with the score and with any comments that she's made, and it's telling me I need to go call her. So that will also help me kind of structure that out as well, so I can see where we need to focus. And then if I'm tracking in attributes, I can kind of categorize that way as well.
Yeah, I would say that Autodesk is a pretty large organization. We're the construction business line. There is an NPS program within the broader organization that uses natural language processing to identify key drivers across any comment that's associated with an NPS score. So we're splicing and dicing that data and looking for things that pertain to the construction unit, and then doing our own surveys because we need some more focused feedback.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think your survey design can influence that also. So if you had done some of that work on text analytics, maybe you've even done correlation analysis work to establish some drivers that give you the NPS result that you're actually after. What you can do is even adapt some of the survey questions. So it looked like it's not just the likely to recommend question, you're asking other things. So you can specifically ask about some of those drivers so that you now have a feedback loop that's specific to the things that are going to have the greatest impact on the overall loyalty level. All right, other questions?
Way on the other side. Kevin's going to get his steps in today. I think my phone said I have like 2 more move minutes to go. So I'm going to pace up here.
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting there. Here you go.
You mentioned completing phone surveys kind of separate from like an email survey format.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know kind of how you figured out which mode you would use to get voice of customer, and does that influence things in any way as you're kind of aggregating feedback?
Yeah, so we actually started with a phone survey over an email survey for the construction business because the email survey already existed for the rest of the organization. And that for us was really wanting to do a real sentiment and check in with those account, customer champions. And then as far as how it goes into VOC, it does go in as a listening post, but it is also a metric that we can drive towards, which makes it separate. So I would say it gets folded into all of the feedback that we're collecting, but considering who gave it to us, that means it deserves more actionable planning towards making sure that we're addressing all of that feedback.
Any other questions? What other questions do you have? All right. Are you guys ready for the Hero Awards? Because that's coming. I'm priming for Kevin. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you so much for your time and attention today. We truly appreciate it. Thank you, Laura, for presenting with me today. And we'll see you at the G2 crowd outside.